Got a rounded, nasty looking back when you deadlift?
You better not. You better not.
Well, that's no good. So let's fix it. Specifically today, we're going to talk about how doing it wrong can actually help you get it right.
That doesn't make sense.
This will be the last video in our Saturday Shorts series of how to set your back in the deadlift. In other words, how to fix that rounded back that you might be struggling with. Now, in our previous videos, we have used cues, and that's the typical approach, right? We've used cues like squeeze your chest up, push your belly down between your thighs, put wrinkles in your shirt, point your rectum at the wall. We've even talked about explosive diarrhea and how that might help you actually set your back. And we'll link to those videos below. But today we're going to actually talk about using a drill to fix it. Now don't just jump to this approach right away. If cues work, use those first. So try those first. It's a simpler, quicker approach. But if that's not working for you, try this drill. So here's the approach. You're going to set the bar on the pins inside the cage. You want some weight on the bar. You don't need a lot, but you need enough to make it so that the bar does not easily move when you start to apply tension. Now, here I've got the bar set up just below my knees, but if you need to start a little bit higher, you can certainly do that as well. We're going to start with our back in flexion, in other words, with it rounded. And that's usually a pretty easy position to achieve for most people, especially if you're struggling with the problem of extending the back anyway. So for you, kind of that rounded back is kind of the default position. So getting into that rounded, flexed back position is not going to be too difficult. And in fact, you're simply going to cue yourself to round your back, flex your back, or you can even tell yourself to make your back into a mountain. As far as the deadlift setup, all the usual things apply. So the bar should already be over the middle of your foot. Your shin should now be touching the bar. And this is an important point. Throughout the rest of this drill, nothing below your waist should move. Nothing below your hips should actually move. So your shins should not move and the bar should not move.
Don't.
From here, you're simply going to cue yourself to extend your back. In other words, you're going to cue yourself to flatten out your back or push your belly down between your thighs. And at this position, it's usually easier to achieve. In other words, it's easier to achieve a flat, a straight back when the bar is higher up off the floor. That's why we're starting here. So you can tell yourself to push your belly down between your thighs, to extend your back. You can tell yourself to arch your back or even turn your back into a valley. Now, yes, arching your back and turning your back into a valley are actually over cues. That's the picture of overextension. And we don't actually want that, but don't worry, someone who's struggling with getting their back flat in the first place is probably not at a real good risk of actually achieving that overarched position anyway. So those over cues are going to prove useful. So we now have these two positions of flexion and extension, or mountain and then valley. And you're simply going to go back and forth between these two positions, between the positions of doing it wrong, and then you simply cue yourself to do the opposite. In other words, we're using the process of doing it wrong to kind of learn where not to be. So you go from that position of being a mountain to a position of a valley. You just tell yourself to do the opposite. You're going to do a set of 5, alternating between a position of flexion and extension. Once you've achieved, kind of graduated from that height, you're going to lower the pins, do it from a lower position. And you're going to repeat that process until eventually you're on the floor, setting up with a nice straight back. As always, we hope this helps you get stronger and live better.